You don't so much interview Julie Walters as have a natter with her. Though she is a dame now, she is suspicious of any sniff of pretension, so she undermines anything that sounds like a formal question with a hoot of laughter. And you feel a bit of a fool for trying to analyze her. She's played so many mums and wives and housekeepers, from Petunia, Victoria Wood's unhinged parent in Dinner Ladies, to Molly Weasley in Harry Potter, to Robbie Coltrane's other half in National Treasure. It's like she's part of the family. In that sense, it is easy to forget what a liberated, gate-crashing actor Walters was when she first became a film star. To remind myself, before I'd come to meet her, I'd watched her in a YouTube clip receiving her first BAFTA for educating Rita in 1982, with her great mass of permed hair, boozy and heckling Audrey Hepburn and Michael Caine in her Brummy accent. There is still a bit of that about her at 67, once she gets talking. We're sitting in a bare, whitewashed dressing room next to where she's just had her picture taken in a John Travolta dance pose, and talking about the freedoms and restrictions of getting older. I tend to think, oh forget who cares, Walters says. I remember reading in a magazine, you know, you should never wear silver after 50. She adopts the voice of Mary Whitehouse, or her mother. That just makes me want to wear only silver until I am bloody 90, if I live that long. The reason for our conversation is the definedly age-inappropriate film Stars Don't Die in Liverpool, in which Annette Bening plays the Hollywood diva Gloria Graham in a fateful love affair with a young English actor called Peter Turner, who is 30 years her junior. In what is a wayward true story, Walters is Peter's Scouse mum, who took the Hollywood star into the back bedroom of her terraced house in 1981 to nurse her through her terminal cancer. Definedly age-inappropriate film Stars Don't Die in Liverpool, in which Walters plays a Scouse mum. There were many reasons for Walters to love the film. For a start, it reunited her with her protégé from Billy Elliot, Jamie Bell, who plays Turner. He was only 11 when he did Billy Elliot, she says with nurturing pride, and he's turned into such a brilliant man and a brilliant actor. And then it gave her the opportunity to work with Bening, who she has always admired as an actor but never met. She is so beautiful and so unvain, just no vanity at all. And then there was the story itself, based on a memoir that Turner wrote. I remembered Gloria Graham from The Bad and the Beautiful and all those films, Walters says. She was always this great sort of wild girl. When she went up and got her Oscar in the 1950s, she just took it and said thank you and walked off. People apparently said she hasn't even brushed her hair, and then she went off the rails a bit and met this bloke while living in digs in London. I love all that. I read you should never wear silver after 50, which makes me want to wear only silver until I'm bloody 90. Shooting took Walters back to Liverpool, where she started out as an actor, after drama school in Manchester. Some of the drama takes place at the Playhouse Theatre. Walters was at the rival Everyman at about the same time, the edgier one, she insists. It makes me feel a bit sad when I think back, she says. It really feels like a long time ago. And it is 43 years ago, the 14th of June 1974, when I got my first job. It was a fabulous place to be. Thinking of it reminds me of Pete Postlethwaite, who she lived with for 5 years, who is dead, of course, and Kevin Lloyd, now dead. They were key folk. It was really anarchic and groundbreaking. Those years were the substance of Walters' autobiography, which was tellingly bookended by two births: her own troubled arrival in Smethwick, the fifth and third surviving child of her parents, and the arrival of her daughter, Maisie, who is now 27. Walters' life story, as she wanted to tell it, is a proper coming-of-age tale, an escape from the life her judgmental mother and the convent nuns wanted for her, to be a nurse and to marry a doctor, and the determined creation of the life she wanted for herself, to be an actor and the freest of spirits. It was a transformation which ended, triumphantly, she suggests, with becoming a mother herself at 40. Bending over backwards, Julie Walters wears a black roll neck by Sport Max, crop trousers by S. Max Mara, a transparent Mac by Burberry, and star shoes by Superga. Photograph Phil Fisk. Observer. I interviewed Walters 15 years ago for The Observer when she had just made the grueling TV drama, Murder. At the time she fantasized a bit about taking some time off, which she didn't get around to until 8 years later, after her equally draining performance as the shaven-headed Momolam, dying of cancer. I was 60 by then, she says now, and I wanted to see where I was in life, and what I wanted. I wasn't sure I wanted to work anymore. Then, after 12 months of doing nothing, a script came in from the National, Stephen Beresford's brilliant debut, The Last of the Housemans, and I thought, this is fab, and I went back to it again. But it was important to stop the treadmill for a bit, I think. She tries, she says now, to choose only things that might be a proper challenger because they could be fun and lucrative, hopefully still that way round. That still leaves her with plenty to go on. As well as film stars don't die in Liverpool, she is waiting on the release of sequels to Mary Poppins and Paddington, in which she does her housekeeper turns. And then some proper drama in country music. As she describes the latter, you get a sense of her generosity towards new talent. Jessie Buckley plays this girl who wants to be a country singer. And she is this rough ass from Glasgow. I play the mother, looking after her 2 children from different fathers. You know, she is saying I'm going to Nashville and I am saying, well, will you just get yourself a fucking job and look after your kids? We had a read through and she sang the songs. She has this amazing voice and we were all literally cheering. I hope that it is massive for her, she deserves it. A couple of days after we meet, Walters is heading out to Croatia to do a sequel to Mamma Mia, inevitably titled Here We Go Again. She wasn't sure about it when it was first suggested. I thought we had used all the songs, she says. But then she read the script and it made her cry, which seemed like a good sign. Her character Rosie, along with Meryl Streep's Donna, is now apparently in her late 50s. It's Mamma Mia world, so that's it, she says. You can make up anything. It's a pleasant change anyhow. Walters suggests to be playing someone younger than herself. From the very beginning of her career back in Liverpool, she has been cast as world-weary mums and dottery grannies. Does it feel any less like acting now? Class act with Victoria Wood in Dinner Ladies. Photograph Alamy stock photo. She laughs. Yes, I used to think when I played these parts one had to put on some physical thing. A bit bent over. Now I don't have to play that so much. She adopts the inflection of Mrs. Overall. My knees are a bit arthritic. Why was she always drawn to playing those characters? I think a lot of it was watching my grandmother, she says. She was my first part, really. She had vascular dementia, which unfortunately as children we found massively entertaining. We all lived in this little house, 3 kids, her, no washing machine. How my mother dealt with us all, I don't know. Granny O'Brien was a constant source of inspiration. The post office would phone up in the middle of the night and say, Mrs. O'Brien is here, can you come and get her? Walters recalls. My dad would go down and she would be naked and he would have to put something round her and bring her home. And even then, she wouldn't look at my dad because he was a builder and she didn't approve marrying a man in overalls, she would say. One time we were all round the table and my mother suddenly shouted, "Oh Mother of God, will you look at her now?" And we all turned around and my grandmother was eating a boiled egg with a pair of coal tongs. All this black sudden yolk around her mouth, looking at us. Did you mimic her? I did a bit. And all the ladies from round about, my mother's friends, Birmingham Irish. Julie Walters wears a roll neck by Sport Max, a fake fur collar by Mark Kane and a ring and bangle by Minos. Photograph Phil Fisk for The Observer. We talk about the ways in which so much British comedy and drama was rooted in those gossipy, working communities, and mostly written by those who escaped them: Alan Bennett, Willie Russell, Victoria Wood. About how the eccentricities of those Macado and Ment generations came to life on the stage. It is ridiculous that we don't hold comedy in as high a kind of level as straight drama, Walters says. You can't go to drama school and learn to be a comedian. It is in people. Comedians hear how people talk. The thing about Victoria's writing, for example, is that you never wanted to change a line of it. And I am always wanting to change lines and rewrite speeches. Whatever happens on our farm turns up in the Archers a couple of weeks later. It's spooky. Walters gave a moving series of tributes to her friend and closest collaborator when she died. A year on, her absence doesn't get any easier. It is still so very strange, she says. I have a picture of Victoria at home, and I turn to it and say, where are you? She was a massive presence in my life, and certainly in my career. We saw each other, but we also did a lot of emailing and texts. It wasn't a shock because I obviously knew she was ill, but it is just hard to get your head around it. It is partly because there was nobody like her in this business. Quite shy. If I was asked to play her, I'd find it very hard to work her out psychologically. And all that energy is gone. Where to? She smiles. I'm like, give me a sign if you are around. Walters has become more private herself over the years, following a fairly raucous time after she first found fame. There are only so many times you want to appear in the Daily Mail looking terrible. She never goes to parties, and only occasionally does a red carpet if she is up for an award. She keeps a little place in London, but when it comes to it I think, oh God, I am staying there tonight. But filming days are always long days. It is generally getting up at 5:30 a.m. and getting home at 6:30, so I have to. Otherwise she lives with her husband, Grant Raffy, at their farm in Sussex. Her face lights up when she talks about it. He works it, he is very good at it. The cows love him. He calls to them and they call back. As a young brummie with Michael Caine in Educating Rita. Photograph all-star Columbia. She doesn't get physically involved with the day-to-day of the farm, but loves the fact that they can talk about it constantly. We have 40 head of cattle and 300 sheep, and a few pigs, 700 chickens, turkeys. It is hard work. My husband thinks we have a mole because whatever happens on our farm, whether it is making sausages, or employing a Polish worker or whatever, turns up in the Archers a couple of weeks later. It's spooky. When we last met, I remind her, she suggested that by now she would hopefully be gardening, traveling the world, writing, and that she'd like to think there'll be too much of real life going on for me to want to do much acting. That ambition seems to have changed a bit. It has, she says. Toby Jones once said to me, "You really love acting, don't you?" And he sounded surprised. And I was surprised, too. But I thought, yeah, I do love it. She laughs. See you in another 15 years, she says. Film stars don't die in Liverpool as in cinemas nationwide from the 16th of November. Shot at Letta Studio. Styling by Jilly Murphy, assisted by Poppy Robertson. Hair and makeup by Chrissy Baker with skin products by Amrovicha.